Coming up tonight, another day of legal wrangling for Sam Bankman-Fried as he gets closer and closer to an extradition reality. A man on bail for murder asks to have his ankle bracelet removed because he's afraid of being found out. Hear what the judge ruled. Plus, our Marlena Leonard gets us caught up on all the holiday shopping activities in Grand Bahama. And then in our news at 7:30, the Valley Boys responding to questions about their resignations. This is Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. Embattled founder and former FTX CEO is on his way to the United States tonight. This video just coming in from the airport at around 6:34 this evening. Bankman-Fried arrived at the Odyssey Aviation Airport in an entourage of police vehicles. He was taken directly to the tarmac, where we expect he was handed over to U.S. officials to board a U.S.-bound flight to eventually face charges. This video, shot only moments ago, shows Bankman-Fried arriving at the airport. Now, earlier today, Bankman-Fried was back in a magistrate's court for a second time this week as extradition arguments were heard. Our Berthany McDermott has been following this.
Former FTX CEO Samuel Bankman-Fried waived his right to a formal extradition hearing with his attorney, Jerome Roberts, saying his client was anxious to leave. Appearing before Magistrate Shaka Seville, attorney Jerome Roberts pointed to a rule of speciality in the extradition treaty which says fugitives must be tried on the charges for which he was extradited. To that, Seville said while he believes it's improper to direct state-to-state communication, he said the court will relay the request to the foreign minister. He added that he has every reason to believe both states will carry out their responsibilities in the treaty. Roberts also read Bankman-Fried's sworn affidavit where he consented to extradition. Under affirmation, the former crypto giant took the stand where he identified the affidavit and revealed that he was not forced or threatened into doing so. Magistrate Seville said he's satisfied and formally committed him to custody until extradition. Bankman-Fried walked in court today wearing what is believed to be the same navy blue suit and brown shoes from his first court appearance. He was also seen holding a bag carrying his belongings. Now that extradition only takes place after the Foreign Affairs Minister signs the extradition papers.
Thank you so much, Berthany. And now our Berthany is standing by live at the Odyssey Aviation. He will be there at 7:30, so be sure to stay tuned. Meanwhile, and here is a video, live shots at the Odyssey Aviation where Bankman-Fried is expected to be extradited to the United States. Meanwhile, a judge has rejected an attempt by an accused murderer to have his ankle bracelet removed. Berlin Belfort, who is accused of the February 17, 2020 shooting death of Kevin Storr at Toot Shop Corner, has been on bail since January 2021. In an application to have his ankle monitor removed, Belfort said he worked as a delivery man, which required him to go into businesses and private homes. Belfort said he had managed to keep the fact that he was being tracked a secret from his boss and co-workers. However, according to Belfort, in recent times, his monitor had been activated while in the presence of his co-workers. He said he was increasingly concerned that he would lose his job if his boss found out. In response, the prosecution said Belfort had provided no proof that he worked as a handyman. In her ruling, Justice Camille Darville Gomez said that there were no compelling reasons to remove Belfort's ankle monitor so close to his trial, which is set to begin on January 16, 2023. Police intercepting a Haitian sloop west of Great Inagua following a joint effort between the U.S. Coast Guard and Royal Bahamas Defense Force on Tuesday. Police say 48 people were on board, 42 adults and 6 children. The vessel was towed to Inagua, where everyone on board was medically assessed and then handed over to immigration officers. With Christmas less than a week away, holiday travel is picking up, especially to the nation's second city. Our Marlena Leonard is there this week and spoke to some travelers in town for the holiday season.
It's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, and for many that means coming home for the holidays. We spoke to a full flight of Western Air passengers coming in from Nassau to Freeport to find out about why they're choosing to come home this Christmas. Elva Johnson and her family have flown in from their home in Eleuthera to spend Christmas up north.
Christmas brings us here, visiting family and friends. I was here earlier this year, but I haven't spent Christmas here in the past 6 years. And my mom still lives here, so I came to spend some time with her.
Johnson experienced some hiccups with her travel, but stayed positive.
It wasn't hectic, but the flight was delayed, but it wasn't too bad. It was delayed by about 2 hours.
Barrington Brennan came all the way from where he now lives in the United States.
Coming home to Freeport, visit family, and it's been a long time. You know, I haven't been to Freeport for a while, so no place like home.
Brennan also experienced some of the holiday travel challenges.
In Nassau, coming in, there was several flights that landed at the same time, but from Nassau to here, it wasn't too bad.
Charlene Harris came in with her granddaughters, excited not only to see her family, but also for the return of Freeport Junkanoo.
This is my home, and I love it. So me and my grandchildren, my daughter, we came to visit my other kids for the Christmas. I love Freeport. I used to live here.
Reporting for Our News from Grand Bahama, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. It's time now for your first look at temperatures across the islands. Our meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by live in the Weather Center, and while he can't promise you snow like a few people are hoping for, he can tell us that we can expect cooler temperatures for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm going to put the call into the man upstairs. I'm going to work on the snow, but yeah, cold is promised. There's a strong cold front that's expected to get in here by Friday, and then we're going to see those temperatures tumble for the holiday weekend, so stay prepared. But right now, outside our studios, though, temperatures comfortable, 77 degrees under partly cloudy skies. The winds out of the southwest at 6 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature a comfortable 75 degrees. Temperatures around the family violence tonight, it's 73 in Freeport, 74 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco. Over in Allenstown, Bimini, and in Great Harbor Key, we have a pair of 78, 76 in Nicholstown, Andros. We also pick up a pair of 77s here in the capital, as well as in Governor's Harbor. Into the central Bahamas, temperatures also in the mid to upper 70s. They have 76 in Kemps Bay, 78 in Arthurstown, Cat Island, 77 in Coburn Town, San Salvador. Georgetown, 79. Deadman's Key, you are 78 at this hour, and into the southeast Bahamas, 79 in Duncantown, Rycat Island, as well as Delectable Bay, Acklands. Pick up 77 in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, 78 in Abrahams Bay, 79 in Matthewtown, Inagua, and our neighbors, good neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, round out our temperature profile at 77. On our satellite, we have a disturbance that was across our area. Most of the activity is now pulled out towards the east, but we still have a low-level circulation, or basically a surface trough hanging out across the northwest Bahamas. That's going to keep a couple of isolated showers in the forecast tonight through tomorrow as the system continues to translate towards the east. Behind that, a weak high-pressure system will dominate our weather, at least for Thursday. But by Friday, we do expect a more significant cold front to get near sometime, and that one will usher in a nice change in the temperatures. We expect temperatures to take a real tumble, especially across the northwest Bahamas, particularly Grand Bahama, Abaco, and the Biminis. You guys could be waking up to some very low 60s or some upper 50s by Sunday. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us, so look up your extended forecast system.
Still to come on Our News, shoppers lining up for holiday bargains. See what's hot this holiday season. And speaking of lines, check out these lines today for the Fox Foundation giveaway. And the clock ticks for the big showdown on Bay. That's coming up when Our News returns. Christmas is just days away and you still have time to purchase your last-minute gifts. The question many have asked is where to find the perfect gift. The holiday market at R.M. Bailey Park has been buzzing with customers. Our news team visited the market and spoke to several vendors.
Look forward to selling my jewelry. We also look forward to this time of year. It's a very pleasant time of the year. And just to be able to sell gifts, people can come and get their gifts, and it's, they're at a reasonable price.
No, man, I've been out here over 28 or 30 years.
Wow.
I started out here.
And what keeps you coming back?
I just love the people. I love to come out and serve. That's just me.
Those vendors had a lot more to say about their booming small businesses. For the full report, be sure to stay tuned for our 7:30 newscast with Italia Hall. A busy morning for the Fox Foundation as they hosted their annual food voucher giveaway. Thousands gathering at the Thomas A. Robinson National Stadium to get their piece of the pie. Our Joshua Williams has more on this.
Cars wrapped around the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium since the wee hours of the morning as thousands of residents flocked to the grounds to receive their free food vouchers. The initiative put on by the Fox Foundation every Christmas seeks to provide food relief to thousands of Bahamian families during the holidays. Founder of the organization, Dr. Adrian Fox, shares the importance of giving back.
This is something we love to do because it's in us. We love giving back to the Bahamian people. We have been fortunate to make some money, and we like to share it with the Bahamian people. And that's what life is all about.
The co-founder of the organization sharing her pride in carrying on the legacy of the foundation.
We are partners with team players. We have my little sisters that we're bringing on board, who's joining the team and getting out there. And it's all about being a team.
The vouchers, valued at $75 each, can be used at AML member stores such as Solomon's and Cosrite.
Man, it means a whole lot, man. It means a whole lot. That's a good thing to give back to the community and doing for the, the less fortunate for the year. Because we've been locked down these 2 years, so many people still looking.
Well, it's a help for everybody, so it means a lot because we just passed COVID and now a lot of people had lose their jobs and stuff, so it's a blessing for everybody.
Reporting for our news, I'm Joshua Williams.
Awesome initiative. Thanks, Joshua. Well, hundreds of motorists were left stranded as traffic came to a standstill in the areas surrounding the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. The backed up traffic coming as a result of the food voucher giveaway held at the stadium. Lines of cars stretched well beyond the limits of the sporting complex to major roads such as University Drive, Tonic Williams Darling Highway, and Blue Hill Road, leaving drivers perplexed and frustrated. Police releasing a notice this morning that a portion of University Drive between Moss and Portigo roads would be blocked off between the hours of 5:30 a.m. and 12 noon. However, this notice did not sit well with residents who flocked to social media to air their grievances, with some complaints of arriving late to work. One for the history books. That's what the Minister of Youth predicts for this year's Junkanoo parades. And Clash of the Showtime Girls. The ladies of Junkanoo get ready to do battle. We have the details when our news returns. is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. Thousands of ambulance workers in England and Wales walked out over pay on Wednesday, increasing the strain on state-funded health services. The strike comes a day after nurses went on strike, as government advised the public to avoid taking risks. Government called the strikes deeply regrettable, saying they would result in fewer ambulances on the road, with only the most urgent, life-threatening cases prioritized. More than 1 million public healthcare workers received a pay raise of at least £1,400, but unions have asked for raises above inflation, which stood at 10.7% in November.
So this is a point when the system is already facing very significant pressure. That's the point at which the trade unions have chosen to take industrial action. And in doing so, they haven't been willing to work with us to agree national exemptions in terms of covering all of the Category 1, Category 2, life-threatening and emergency calls.
Well, look, every time the Health Secretary speaks, I've got my head in my hands. I have never seen such an abdication of leadership than I have from Rishi Sunak and the Health Secretary. We have negotiated actually locally all of the cover. The Category 1s are all going to be answered. Category 2 will be triaged. But the important thing to say here is that this government has walked away from the negotiating table. This strike did not need to happen.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Americans for their support during his first foreign trip to the United States since Russia invaded in February. U.S. President Joe Biden officially announcing in a news conference alongside Zelensky moments ago that the U.S. will send an additional $1.8 billion package of assistance to Kyiv, which will include a Patriot missile defense system. The U.S. has been Ukraine's most important ally in the war, previously committing $50 billion of humanitarian, financial, and security assistance. Elon Musk says he will resign as Twitter's chief executive officer when he finds someone foolish enough to take the job. He says he will still run the software and service teams after his replacement is found. The billionaire had promised to abide by the result of a Twitter poll, which saw 57.5% of users vote yes to him quitting the role. Changes on the platform since its takeover have been much criticized, including the firing of about half of its staff. The family of Peru's ousted president, Pedro Castillo, has left Peru for Mexico after they were offered asylum. This as the Mexican ambassador to Lima was expelled from the country for what the foreign ministry described as political interference. In the hours after his impeachment, Castillo tried to make his way to the Mexican embassy to claim asylum, but was stopped on the way by his own bodyguards and taken into custody.
The government of Peru reaffirms there is no political prosecution within the country, and the rule of law, separation of powers, and respect for the guarantees of administration of justice, including due process, prevail. Mexican ambassador should be kicked out immediately and leave without anything because he has run over Peru's sovereignty.
Authorities in St. Kitts and Nevis say they have uncovered an illegal marriage ring, raising concerns about the possibility the Twin Island Federation being used for human trafficking. Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, who is also Minister of National Security and Immigration, telling Parliament the illegal marriages involved individuals from the Spanish community and allows them to be granted citizenship and voting rights. Drew says while some of the marriages may be genuine, other individuals involved have been abusing the system to gain money. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was December 21st. Our Junkanoo series continues with a look at Clash of the Showtime Girls and Now Boys. And then in our news at 7:30, an attempt by a Bahamian to adopt his Jamaican stepdaughter turned down in court today. Hear why when our news returns. Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was December 21st, including the opening of the newly built downtown straw market. Take a look. This day in Bahamian history, in 1779, a new session of the House of Assembly commenced. Prior to the new sitting, Parliament had not met during the two-year period from October 1777 to November 1779. In the new session, Parliament actually convened on Christmas Day. Then, in 1953, Thomas Daniel Knox, also known as Dan Ranfurly, became governor and served until 1956. While serving, he and his wife Hermione started the Ranfurly Home for Children and the Ranfurly Library Service. In 2011, 10 years after it was destroyed by fire on September 4th, the newly rebuilt downtown Nassau Straw Market was officially opened by then Prime Minister Hubert Ingram. The opening came within a few weeks of another fire that damaged Pompey Museum. Ingram saying at the time, despite the tragedies and setbacks, the opening was an occasion for celebration. Then, 5 years later, in 2016, Rodney Monker received his letter of appointment as senator from Governor General Her Excellency Dame Marguerite Pinley. His appointment by opposition leader Loretta Butler Turner was branded by Maurice Moore, one of the Free National Movement's founders, as a failure of ingenuity and promised political advancement. Here's Monkers responding to questions about his appointment.
Is there a controversy?
There is.
No one has told me, honestly. I've been so busy getting dressed, preparing, reading bills. What are Negroes saying?
They're saying that your comments sometimes are bizarre, even offensive.
To them, I'm 60. I've been married for 37 years. I'm the father of 3 adult children and the grandfather of 2 adults. I've had 1 wife. And in 60 years, I haven't smoked dope yet. And when it comes to job stability, I've been consistent with my work. God save the Queen!
And finally, on this day in 2020, exploratory oil drilling in Bahamian waters began amid widespread opposition by environmentalists. Bahamas Petroleum Company Chief Executive Officer Simon Porter marking the momentous milestone. This as then Attorney General Carl Bethel insisting in a Senate meeting the former PLP government negotiated a deal with BPC that would have likely resulted in Bahamians being shortchanged. While senators were arguing, Porter saying in a statement, the well will be drilled to the highest environmental and safety standards. It's all systems go for the big return to Junkanoo today. The culture minister telling media at a press conference this morning that while the sold-out parade may experience some seating challenges, it will still be a parade for the history books. The big return to Bay is just days away, and tickets are already sold out. With such high anticipation from Junkanoo lovers and Bahamians at large, the Minister of Culture, Mario Boleg, says overcrowding is expected. To this end, he notes that police and defense force officers will be out to ensure the safety of all parade attendees.
We have strengthened the security awareness of manpower that will be on Bay Street, which will be a combination of police and defense force officers that will ensure that the safety of all those individuals will be kept who decide to come on Bay Street. Seating will be a problem because all the tickets are gone, and I want people to stop calling me. I don't have no tickets.
And if you were unable to score tickets,
they should look forward to standing around, as we all did in our earlier days when we used to go to Junkanoo, when we couldn't afford tickets and was in high school, right? So, but it's going to be much more larger crowd than we would have seen over the years on Bay Street, and is expected.
This year, KFC will be making their commitment to culture felt in a tangible way, donating some $30,000 to the ministry. Director of Operations, Mario Cash.
KFC is extremely excited to see the return of Junkanoo.
Chairman of the National Junkanoo Committee, Andrew Pinder, using the opportunity to thank KFC.
We are moving beyond
the funding and trying to make sure that it grows. The minister's mandated us to seek ways in which we can expand Junkanoo.
It's one of the most watched sections of the Junkanoo parade. When the choreographed sections hit the parade, it's up to them to sway the fans and the judges with one-of-a-kind routines. Following a 2-year break, dancers say they're ready, promising spectacular performances. Here's our Brittany McDermott.
It's the clash of the Showtime sections. It's a stiff competition between the groups to see who brings the best choreography and energy. Shell Saxon Superstars choreographer Jerry Pierre promises something different.
This year, the theme that we're bringing is a lot of energy and a lot of performance. You're going to see the girls then give you something different. And also for myself, a lot of persons expecting a lot of gyrating. We're going to kill it.
The Saxons are the defending champions, a title Pierre says they're looking to defend. But other groups aren't going without a fight. Valley Boys choreographer Dr. Myrez Williams says this time around they're focusing on areas that previously got no attention.
We focus kind of more on stuff that we never did kind of focus on before. So the steps were always indicative of what the theme is.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McClure.
Thanks, Berthany. That does it for us here at 7. But joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia, Greg said he can't promise us snow, but we will have cooler temperatures. Are you excited?
I am excited. I've been asking for this for a while now, and it feels pretty cool outside. It almost feels as if I'm in Freeport. So I am so happy about these cooler temperatures, and I hope they continue straight into the new year. All right, thanks, Megan. Well, we are still following the case of Sam Bankman-Fried as the embattled founder and former CEO of FTX is extradited. We've got the latest straight ahead. Tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, down to the wire after another long day in court. The former FTX CEO readies for extradition. Ready, set, rush. The countdown is on, and the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture says they are more than ready. And what's keeping these folks away from home for the holidays? Our Jamila Mizik lets us know. And later, a look at the amazing light show and display setup in the city this holiday season. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Well, we will soon look at live video of embattled founder and former CEO of Sam Bankman-Fried, who is about to be extradited to the United States. Now, this plane has been at the Odyssey Airport for about an hour now, as he is awaiting to be extradited. This video from the airport just moments before our broadcast showing Bankman-Fried arriving at Odyssey Aviation in an entourage of police vehicles. He was taken directly to the tarmac where it was expected that he was handed over to U.S. officials to board a U.S.-bound flight, where he will eventually face charges over accusations of fraud and money laundering. In a moment, our Berthany McDermott, who is at the airport, will join us live with the latest on this. But first, what is being described as perhaps the most highly anticipated Junkanoo parade in recent history is back, with officials now reporting that tickets are sold out. With thousands of spectators expected to fill the bleachers, Minister of Culture Mario Bolag says police and defense force officers will be out to ensure their safety.
We anticipate overcrowding had a conversation with the commissioner, and we have strengthened the security awareness of manpower that will be on Bay Street, which will be a combination of police and defense force officers that will ensure that the safety of all those individuals will be kept who decide to come on Bay Street. Seating will be a problem because all the tickets are gone, and I want people to stop calling me. I don't have no tickets.
And as for the Family Islands and their Junkanoo plans, the minister had this to say.
I think we're going to be setting up the bleachers by the end of this week for them. I spoke with Norris Bain down there along with Ms. Leary, who said that everything is good to go. So unless the weather, I think Grand Bahamas is fine.
And that's the minister touching on the Junkanoo Parade in Grand Bahama that is slated for January 2nd, 2023. While the Valley Boys chairman, Brian Adderley, clearing up the air on the group's affiliation with the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence. After announcing its grievances with the JCNP in 2019, many believe that the group left Junkanoo altogether, never to return. However, Adderley says that's not the case.
The Valley Boys never said that we would leave Junkanoo. Junkanoo was our life, and we were formed to be involved in Junkanoo. What we said is that we were separating our relationship with the JCNP at the time, the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence. And that is what we did. We never indicated that we would be leaving Junkanoo.
And while many are spending the final few days until Christmas shopping and preparing for the big day, others are on vacation. Our Jamila Mizik spoke to some visitors today who say they are happy to be spending the holiday in paradise.
Hundreds of cruise passengers spending the day here on the island, and they say it's the best way to get into the Christmas spirit.
Because we didn't have our children, and we wanted a little getaway for just me and the lady, you know. And we love the Bahamas. I've not been here since 1999.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful weather, beautiful people. It's a good experience for us. These are my daughters, and I said we're going to do one more good trip before they're too grown to travel with me.
I also ran into these Tampa, Florida residents who say it's truly better in the Bahamas.
And I think the environment and the vibes over here are way better than being back home. I like to get drunk, I like to have fun, I like to party, so that's just my opinion on it. That's my favorite way to spend the holidays.
I feel like it's a home away from home. You know, I've been welcomed. I love seeing my people in a way, and all the smiling faces, all the greetings. I love it here, can't complain.
It's a great time, you know. You come here, you look down the road, you see Senor Frogs, and you're like, well, that's a place I gotta be.
And there's one thing they all had in common.
We're gonna have snow when we go back home.
Yeah, so we like the sun.
Back home it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's like 80 here today, so it's a big difference today for us.
It's a lot warmer over here than it is in Tampa.
People from St. Louis who do snow removal have cut their vacation short to go back home to do snow removal. So it's probably bad weather when we get back home in a couple of days.
And after they wrap up their pre-Christmas travels, here is how they plan to spend the actual holiday back home.
Go back home, spend time with the rest of the family, meeting the rest of our family at home, and exchanging gifts and celebrating Jesus.
I'm pretty much doing it already. I'm living it already. This is what I've been looking forward to.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
All right, Jamila, great report. Well, we've still got the latest in the Sam Bankman-Fried extradition case coming up. But first, these cooler temperatures across the islands are really keeping the holiday spirit alive. Well, Greg is back in the Weather Center with your first look at the weather forecast. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks,
and Greg,
Natalie.
just before you start, I have one question. There was reported that there's going to be some bad weather across the U.S. Tell us, what will that mean for us in the Bahamas?
Well, there is a very strong cold front that's headed our way, and they are now having some very serious challenges across the upper Midwest, where they actually have blizzards. Temperatures are now in the minus temperature range, and that's going to get even worse as this cold air mass is headed our way. But I heard somebody mention snow removal. Megan wanted some snow, so I'll work on that, see how things shape up. But we are comfortable outside our studios right now. Temperature at 75 degrees. It's partly cloudy. We had some showers earlier. Those showers really came down with a vengeance earlier. Southwest winds at 6 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature hanging out into the low to mid 70s. Satellite view, disturbance, low pressure system that was across us moved across us actually overnight and into the early portions of the day, is now exiting out towards the east. A lot of showers and thunderstorms that affected the extreme northern islands, particularly Grand Bahama and Abaco, where they had some severe thunderstorm warnings issued. That has now exited, but we do have a low pressure system, a very weak one, hanging out across the northwest Bahamas, so we're going to continue to see a couple of isolated showers tonight to tomorrow as the system still hangs across us, but by tomorrow things should be improving as a high pressure system behind that moves across the area. But we are expecting a cold front that's going to be getting in here on Friday, and that one will definitely usher in some nice changes in your temperature. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, our Berthany McDermott has the latest on Sam Bankman-Fried's extradition, the dubious case of a man trying to adopt his Jamaican stepdaughter, and why the judge denied the request. And looking for holiday bargains? Come go with us to a popular outdoor shopping market. That's all coming up when our news returns. We're now looking at live shots at the Odyssey Airport, where former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is preparing to be extradited to the United States to face fraud charges. Now, that plane has been there for about an hour now. He arrived at around 6:30 this evening. We have been following the story throughout the day, and we will continue to follow this story. Berthany McDermott is standing live at the airport. We will try to get an update from him shortly. Again, you are looking at live video at the Odyssey Airport, where former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried is preparing to be extradited to the United States. Berthany, you're standing by live. Can you hear me?
Yes, Natalia, I can hear you. We're standing outside Odyssey Aviation and the aircraft that is taking former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried to New York City, where he will face criminal charges there. Just taxied down the runway and is about to take off. Police confirming that he has already boarded that aircraft. Now, we didn't see him go on the aircraft. What we did see, or what our cameras saw rather, were two what looked like trucks blocking cameras that are here on the road, on Coral Harbor Road, from seeing anyone walk on or off the aircraft. But what we can tell you is that he arrived here at about 6:34 this afternoon under heavy police guard. 7 police cars, to be exact, were a part of the convoy that brought him here at Odyssey Aviation. That's after he was being held at the Bahamas Department of Correction following his extradition hearing at the Magistrates Court. Now, we understand he was taken back to the Bahamas Department of Corrections because that aircraft that is taking him to New York City didn't arrive as yet. So that aircraft did not arrive as yet. But again, that extradition hearing happening earlier today, we all sat in court to hear exactly what went down, and here's that report. Former FTX CEO Samuel Bankman-Fried waived his right to a formal extradition hearing with his attorney Jerome Roberts, saying his client was anxious to leave. Appearing before Magistrate Shaka Seville, attorney Jerome Roberts pointed to a rule of speciality in the extradition treaty which says fugitives must be tried on the charges for which he was extradited. To that, Seville said while he believes it's improper to direct state-to-state communication, he said the court will relay the request to the foreign minister. He added that he has every reason to believe both states will carry out their responsibilities in the treaty. Roberts also read Bankman-Fried's sworn affidavit where he consented to extradition. Under affirmation, the former crypto giant took the stand where he identified the affidavit and revealed that he was not forced or threatened into doing so. Magistrate Seville said he's satisfied and formally committed him to custody until extradition. Bankman-Fried walked in court today wearing what is believed to be the same navy blue suit and brown shoes from his first court appearance. He was also seen holding a bag carrying his belongings. Now that extradition only takes place after the Foreign Affairs Minister signs the extradition papers. Now, that wraps up the proceedings here for Bankman-Fried. As for what's next for him, again, he is heading back to New York City on that aircraft that we understand has no markings or numbers or anything, where he will again face criminal charges, 8 counts to be exact, and we also understand that he could be facing up to 115 years in prison. But for now, coming to you live from Odyssey Aviation on Coral Harbor Road, I'm Berthany McDermott, sending it back to you in studio, Italia.
Thanks so much, Berthany. Our Berthany McDermott reporting for us live tonight. Continue to follow this story on ournews.bs or our News Bahamas Facebook page for the latest. Thanks so much, BJ, again. Well, a Bahamian man lost his bid to adopt his Jamaican wife's teenage daughter after a judge ruled the application was an attempt to circumvent immigration laws. The stepfather married the then 11-year-old girl's mother in 2015. He applied to adopt his stepdaughter in 2021, 8 months shy of her 17th birthday. She was almost 18 by the time the application was completed. The stepdaughter, whose biological father is also Jamaican, turned 18 on October 15, 2022. Her permit to reside in the country expired on November 27, 2022. In her judgment delivered last week, Justice Diane Stewart said, quote, "It is unfortunate that the application for adoption was only heard months before the child's 18th birthday. It would appear to me that under these circumstances, the purpose of making the application was to circumvent the Bahamas immigration laws." The child reached the age of maturity on October 15, 2022. It is evident that the adoption was not needed to safeguard the child's best interests. It appears that the only reason for making the application was to pass citizenship to the minor child. End quote. Justice Stewart dismissed the application to adopt the child who recently became an adult. The court said the stepdaughter could still apply to regulate her immigration status. Lights, Camera, Christmas. A look at the magnificence of Christmas on display downtown when our news comes back from the break.
Plus, coming up in Sports for United, big night for DeAndre Ayton does not add up to a win. We'll give you details on that and so much more just ahead in sports.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Well, a big scoring night for DeAndre Ayton as he and the Suns face the Wizards. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield and the Suns set for action tonight. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Just a few more days until Christmas, but meanwhile, we still have some sports to get to. Let's start with DeAndre Ayton last night. He and the Phoenix Suns on the floor going up against the Washington Wizards. Should be an easy win, right? Turns out, maybe not so much. Let's take a look at those highlights.
Baby big man, DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns, they were in action last night. Going on a pretty good night at the office. 32 minutes played, finishes up with 30 points, 13 rebounds. That's pretty solid by any stretch of the imagination. Finished up 12 of 20 shooting from the field. And all in all, just a good overall performance, other than the fact that they lost this one. Phoenix now go back to the drawing board. Their next game is just around the corner. They take on the Memphis Grizzlies. That's going to come your way on Friday. That game's just at 10 o'clock. We'll give you details on that as it comes up closer and closer. But right now, like we said, tough loss for DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns. Meanwhile, it's back to work this evening for Buddy Hield and his Indiana Pacers. They'll go up against the Boston Celtics in Boston. We'll tell you how that one turns out coming up for you tomorrow.
And that's it. You look at sports here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, the beauty of Christmas in amazing lights and displays. Plus, the approaching cold weather. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the extended weather forecast. That's all coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. Forecasters say once-in-a-generation winter storm is expected to impact nearly every state in the U.S. and cripple Christmas travel this year. But thankfully, ours is a more sunny reality. Back with a check on temperatures is meteorologist Greg Thompson with your extended weather forecast. Good evening again, Greg.
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia.
Those temperatures sound pretty scary in the U.S., but thankfully here we won't have to worry about those too much.
Well, when you expect 40s across Florida, and I think this is what, the third Christmas that they've had, well, third occasion they've had that lower temperature expected for the Florida area. That's significant. So we're expecting some of that cold air mass to get in here to the Bahamas, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't get any real cold weather. But yeah, right now we are still watching that big storm system across the central portions of the United States. There's a front that extends all the way back down towards Mexico. That's the system that is expected getting here. In the meantime, though, we're getting rid of some weather that we had overnight. It's now moved into the Atlantic. There's still some lingering moisture across areas, so we're looking at the possibility for a couple of isolated showers tonight. High pressure will build in behind that, weak high pressure, but we're anticipating this frontal boundary getting here sometime Friday afternoon, Friday night. So by Saturday and into Sunday and into your holiday weekend, it's going to get a little chilly across the northwest Bahamas, particularly Grand Bahama, you guys, Abacos, and the Bimini area, looking for some temperatures to be somewhere in the 50s. And with the wind, it's going to make it feel a lot cooler than those temperatures are. Future forecast showing the moisture that was associated with that disturbance moving out into the Atlantic away from us, and that's the front that we expect to get near sometime Friday. That one will bring in a nice change in our atmosphere. Hopefully this front doesn't hang up. There's some of the models that actually have this front hanging up just a slight bit, so we might see an isolated shower, but we'll continue to monitor this as the weekend approaches. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Small craft caution still in effect. Those swells are still persistent out there. Southeast to south winds at 10 to 15 knot seas running 2 to 4 feet over the ocean, but up to 6 feet in some swells, mainly along the Atlantic exposed shorelines. Tide is presently high. It will be low at 47 minutes past midnight. For the southeast Bahamas, caution flag for you guys down there as well. East to southeast winds 10 to 15 knot seas, 2 to 4 near shore, and up to 6 feet offshore in some swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, we expect that front to get near Friday. Temperatures will take a big dip. We're looking at those temperatures get into the low 70s. We will likely see 60s across the northwest, extreme northwest Bahamas. But we're anticipating some of that moisture to hang around. We hopefully will get rid of that, and then by the early part of next week, things should start to warm up. That's your quick look at weather. Have a safe holiday.
Dip in temperature, so is it safe to tell our viewers to get their winter gear ready?
Grand Bahama.
Okay. What about here? Because I already took out my boots, my sweater.
We're going to get some of that.
Okay.
You will most likely need some sweaters and possibly even a thicker jacket. So
all right. Okay. Well, the Pompey Square Light Show is back following its successful stint during the COVID-19 pandemic. We spoke to the man behind the vision. Our Joshua William has the details.
Dazzling lights and creative artwork greets visitors and residents each evening as they enter Pompey Square. The light show, which charmed onlookers in Rawson Square during the pandemic, has returned. Creative director Kazimu Ellis.
Thought about it over the summer, and I started writing, putting pen to paper, conceptualizing, and started to think about what people would want and what they would want to see. And first of all, the thing is, you want a nice entrance to greet the people, to welcome them, and feel the Christmas spirit. Last year we learned a lot of stuff with Rawson Square. A lot of the things that happened in Rawson Square was people wanted to take pictures. So with this year, I introduced a lot of photo ops for the kids, for the family, things that you could actually sit in and, get a good photo op.
The exhibition, which begins at Pompey Square and heads west to the end of Arawak Key, has a staggering 70,000 light bulbs. Ellis says he wants families who are not able to celebrate Christmas at home to come and experience the show for themselves.
Growing up in the Bahamas, it was always, we decorate the house for Christmas, we jump in the car and we drive throughout Nassau to see the lights. And it was always the lights for me. So I brought that to fruition today, and I thought about kids and grown-ups alike, and I wanted to cater to everybody.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
Thanks, Joshua, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.